Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in just a minute. See lots of participants rolling in. One thing you could do while we're waiting for everyone to arrive is if you want to introduce yourself in our chat box and say where you're coming from. We'd love to see who we've got in the room with us today. I'll also mention that in the chat function, you have the option to reply to all panelists or to reply to all panelists and attendees. So if you'd like your comment to be public, make sure you've got that on all panelists and attendees. I see a lot of people from New York joining today. We've got Texas, Connecticut, California, Illinois, more Connecticut. Fabulous. Toronto. All right, we're going international, guys. So I think we will go ahead and get started. So it sounds like everyone can hear me and the audio and video is working. So what I want to do is say hello to everyone and thank you for joining inspirED's relaunch event. We're so excited to have you all here with us. My name is Jessica Hoffman and I'm with the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and I'll be doing our moderating of this event today. So I have the pleasure of introducing a whole bunch of co-presenters to you. First is Dr. Mark Brackett, who is the director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and a professor in the Yale Child Study Center. And also my partner in crime, Julie McGarry, who is the program manager for inspirED here at the YCEI. In addition to hearing from us, we have a whole bunch of special guests lined up for you. Jamie Lockwood, who's a partner manager at Facebook for Education and one of the original co-creators of inspirED content with us. We've also got Kelly Malloy, Daryl Blank, and Akriti Bagchi from the High School for Fashion Industries, the High School of Fashion Industries, my apologies. And we've got Kennedy Durkis, Kimberly Bond, Deja Tull, Megan Long, and Jeremy Hirsch from Grossmont High School in La Mesa, California. So we're really excited for you to hear from all of them today. I want to give you a quick orientation to this webinar. At the bottom of your screen, you should see the option to type into the chat, and we highly encourage lots of discussion as we go. And also there's a Q&A function where you can ask questions and we will try to get you answers. If it's something we can answer right away, then you'll see that either Jenny or I or our coworker Jennifer will be giving you an answer. If it's something we want to pose to one of the panelists, we'll probably do quite a bit of that at the end. And also you should know that we are going to have a full recording of this that will get sent to you within the next couple of days, probably early next week. So don't worry about trying to get everything down. You will get that recording to share out. So really quick, I want to share with you inspirED's mission. So at inspirED, we believe that young people's voices matter, right? We provide free resources, and those resources are designed by teens, educators, and SEL experts all working together. Our main goal is to empower students to work in teams so that they can create more positive school climates. Those positive school climates are in service of creating greater well-being for those students, for their schools, and for their communities. So this is what we do. With that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our plan for the next hour. We're going to start with opening remarks from Dr. Mark Brackett, who's going to tell you a little bit about the history and how inspirED has come to be and where we are. We'll give you a quick overview of where inspirED is today, followed by the website tour and all of our newest resources. We're going to spend the bulk of the time on our student presentations, as we are all about student voice, and show you a few of our next steps and our plans for this upcoming year and how you can get involved. And then finally, we will save time for that Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Mark.
All right, thank you, Julie. Jessica. I'm looking at Julie, who's right below me. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're super excited that you joined us for this relaunch of inspirED, or inspirED students. I'm not going to share who I am because Jessica already did that. But I want to just give you a little bit of the history around inspirED because I think it's a fun little story. Back around, I guess, it's been 6 years now. I had the privilege of being on the board of Lady Gaga's foundation. It's called Born This Way Foundation. And as a board member, I was tasked with like, what can we do together to make a difference in the world? And came up with this idea of, well, let's create an emotion revolution. And so in collaboration with Lady Gaga and her mom, we started this initiative, which again, we call the Emotion Revolution. And then the question was, okay, what are we going to do with this thing? Like, what can we all do as a team? I'm not a pop singer. I don't have 60, 70 million followers on Twitter and Instagram. Maybe one day, doubtful. And I'm all, I'm not a pop star or an icon. I'm an academic. So what can an academic do with someone who is, in the music industry? And we thought, let's take our expertise together and let's do research, which I can lead. And then let's do something really spectacular, an event to just launch this idea. So the long story short is that we created what we call the Emotion Revolution. We can go to the next slide. And that's my picture dropping for the day. And essentially, it was a project that we wanted to know, what are the feelings that our nation's high school students are experiencing each day. And so we launched this study and we asked them those two big questions. The first one is, how are you feeling? And students, in their own words, described how they felt each day at school. But then we also asked them how they want to feel. And, it's interesting that we put it in this order because, those data on the left are the words that our students said they wanted to feel: happy, excited, energized, inspired, safe, comfortable, valued, respected, connected, supported. Maybe everyone can just give me a hand raise. Like, how many of you want to feel that? Like, how about right now? I think a lot of us would like to feel these emotions, not only right now, but especially when we're in school. The challenge is that the data didn't show that that's the way they currently feel. It showed that's how they hope to feel. So if we go to the next slide. This is what we found. What we found was that about 75% of the words that our nation's high school students reported feeling each day were, classified as what researchers call negative emotions: tired, bored, and stressed. Number one, tired. Everybody's just saying tired. Everyone is bored and stressed. And I think what's even more important about these data is that these emotions are likely co-occurring. It's not like I'm tired at 7 a.m. when I get up in the morning, and I'm kind of bored in third period, and I'm stressed in sixth period. It's that, like, when I'm walking to school, I'm tired, I'm already anticipating being bored in my classes, and I'm stressed out, like, what the heck's happening with my future and where we're going. And so I'm going to wrap up my piece by saying, along with our colleagues at Facebook who helped to fund this project, we decided, all right, so what can we do to close the gap between how students said they felt and how they wanted to feel? So how do we go from tired and bored and stressed to happy, excited, and energized and inspired, et cetera? And that's how inspirED was born, or inspirED was born. It was born as a way to think about the resources and tools and strategies that we could create and then basically give away to high schools to support high schools and students in building the best, most positive climates where learning and good decision making can happen, where positive relationships can be built and maintained. So that was 5 years ago now, and I'm proud to say that our team, led by Jessica and Julie, over the last couple of years, has taken this to a level that just wasn't anticipated, and I'm even more excited to hear where it's going, which we're going to hear about today, and also hear from two of our key partners who have actually done this work and can share, the reality of what it looks like when you do it. So on that note, welcome again. Super proud of the work we do, and also excited for where it will go, and hopeful that you'll all be part of it.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for introduction. So what we wanted to do was, this is Jamie Lockwood from Facebook for Education, who's not able to be with us today, but she did have a short message that she wanted to share with everyone, so we thought we would play that for you.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie Lockwood. I work at Facebook on our education partnerships team. I lead our youth well-being education initiatives, and we have a strong focus on social and emotional learning and really thinking about what are the skills that young people need to navigate and thrive in today's increasingly complicated and connected world. We are so honored to be a part of the work on inspirED. Truly believe that students having the agency to develop these social and emotional learning skills and lead really the change that they want to see, not only in their schools but in their communities, is really the heart of the work that needs to be done in our really for our world. So thank you again to everyone on the Yale team for the partnership for so many years, and thank you to you all for being here and caring so deeply about this work. We are excited to stay connected to all the amazing initiatives and projects that you'll launch in your schools and communities. And again, we're just grateful to have been part of this work for so many years and look forward to all that is ahead. Thanks so much.
So we are sad that Jamie couldn't be with us in person, but so happy that she was able to send us a quick note. And we're so thankful to her and Facebook for the collaboration over the last 5 or 6 years now. The relaunch event is really a celebration of a big move that we made with inspirED to house it solely at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence and continue to work with Facebook for Education and many other partners. But we made that move so that we could continue to share the resources freely, so that we could continue to add in other partners, so that we could continue the research component of this by bringing it into Yale and the School of Medicine and the Center for Emotional Intelligence. And so the kind of direction that we've taken in the last couple of years is that as we built resources for educators, as we built resources for students, as we traveled around and gave youth engagement leadership workshops around the country, there were two huge things we learned. The first was that there is no single solution. There is no PDF that I can hand out that is a workshop you run that solves these problems. The schools are facing the many challenges that are coming up, some of which are just continuing and growing, and others that are new, right, with social media and technology in schools. And the second was that we needed to focus on teaching people a process rather than trying to come up with this one product. And so what we developed was this slide here, which is our 4-step inspirED process. It goes A, B, C, D, so it's pretty easy to remember. It starts with assess. So how do we feel in school? Right? You have to first identify what it is that you're challenged by, or what the obstacle is, or what it is you'd like to work on. Then we ask people to brainstorm. How do we get closer to where we want to be? Right? And that's where we can teach creative problem-solving skills. We can teach teamwork and collaboration and communication. Then we ask students to commit to and complete that project, actually bring it to life, not just talk about it, but act. And then, of course, after you're done, you need to debrief. How did it go? What have we learned? What should we do next? And often that involves going back to assess and reassessing what's changed, what's the same, did we move the needle, right? And then going around the cycle again. And by doing this, what we can do is really put students in the driver's seat, make them the experts in their school, in their community. They know their context the best. So what we can bring is the psychological expertise, but each school we visit, each team we work with, they are bringing the expertise on what they believe them and their peers need. And they not only know what they need, but they often have really great and creative solutions. And so that's what we're trying to bring out and support. So the short version of that, right, is that we bring together teams of students at a school, and we ask them to address some area of their school climate. That might be teaching and learning quality, that might be safety, psychological safety, emotional safety, physical safety. It might have to do with diversity and inclusion, or any number of other things, social media and tech habits. And they pick that project and they work on it. And in creating a school climate that is safe and supported, where students feel valued, respected, all the words that came out of the emotion revolution, not just calm and safe, but empowered, inspired, right? Passionate. We can create the schools that we know that everybody needs. So what exactly does that look like if we get concrete about it? So one of our inspirED projects that's featured on our site is from Northwestern High School. And this is a project where the teachers had $800 that they were able to give out in $100 grants. So students who had an idea for how to spread kindness could apply and receive $100 to do their project. So 8 teams of students were each awarded these $100 kindness grants to spread kindness. One group decided to buy yarn and make dolls that they then donated to students who lived in an orphanage in China who had no toys. Another group used the money to partner with the local fire department and host a pancake breakfast, and they turned their $100 into $3,000 through this pancake breakfast, and they donated the $3,000 to the children's hospital in their community. Now, these kinds of projects got some attention in the media, and a local citizen decided to pledge $70,000. That's not a typo or me misspeaking. $70,000 in scholarships for future kindness grant projects. So this is one that we call a low input, high impact. Right, the school started small and grew rapidly. So that's the kind of thing that we are hoping to support across the country. The icing on the cake, I'll call it, the icing on the cake to this is that not only are students working together to improve their school climates, to help their communities, but, and don't tell them, the secret is they're also learning lots of social and emotional skills along the way. So here are some testimonials from past inspirED students. So KG said, "My mother told me I could be anyone I wanted when I grew up, but the truth is you can be anyone you want at any point in time." Right? So we're talking about building a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, right? Not waiting until later to do the things that you know should be done now. And then another student at Amity High School said, "I used to believe that the leader was the loudest person in the room. But after she served as the president of her inspirED team, she says, now I know that a leader is someone who makes space for others to speak up." Right? So this one is building leadership skills, learning how to help others advocate for themselves. Another student at Franklin High School said, "It's hard to get people to see things in a new way, so we have to show them that it can be different." Right? And this one to me speaks about advocacy again, also growth mindset, being able to vision and then strategize to create that change. And I'm going to call out Jeremy because he is actually on our call. Sometimes we change the minds of the teachers too, right? So he said, "I think every school listens to their students. I think it's what they do with the information their students express that's key. For us, our students rule," right? So again, this is going beyond listening and understanding to action. So I'm now going to turn it over to Julie to give us a tour of the new site. If you have been in inspirED school in the past, you may know that our site was inspired.fb.com. We now live at inspirEdstudents.org, and Julie is going to show us around.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are so excited to share with you the launch of our brand new website, inspirEdstudents.org. And I want to just take you through some of the key areas and show you how we've built this, hopefully to best support you and your students in bringing the inspirED process and bringing inspirED projects to your school. So here is our homepage, and you can see that again, our mission is here. And we want to also really point you in the direction of our process. We're showing you those 4 steps that Jessica walked you through, the ABCD process of assess, brainstorm, commit, and debrief. On our About page, you can learn a little bit about our vision, as well as some of the emotion revolution data that Mark shared, the students telling us how they wanted to feel, as well as the science of school climate and some of the domains and dimensions of school climate, as well as some suggestions for how you could measure school climate if you don't already have a process for that at your school. On our actual process page, you're going to see that we have resources broken down for each of those 4 steps. It's just some kind of high-level key resources that might support you in each of those steps. So in Assess, really the main thing that we want to do is get students exposed to the actual data about what's going on at their school and help empower them to have the sense to peek in on the data and know what's going on. There's a couple of different ways that we can support students in doing that, ranging from really informal to maybe doing an informal survey or a focus group, up through doing a more formal, in-depth analysis of school climate. And then, of course, we want students to have the skills and the resources to actually talk about those results as well. In the brainstorm phase, this is really where we want to provide students with support on developing creativity and coming up with ideas. So once they've figured out what's going on at their school, we want them to be able to come up with the ideas for what they want to do about that. And what's really important here is that students don't necessarily have to choose the quote lowest scoring area of school climate. They might choose something that's already a strength and that they want to build on. They might choose something that's sort of middle of the road, but they're passionate about. But the brainstorm phase is the phase where they're going to come up with something that they can actually do about that issue at their school. And then, of course, in commit, like Jessica said, we don't want them to just talk about it. We want to actually see what's going to come of that. So if you said you were holding an event, it's time to go ahead and pick that date and get started on planning, recruit people who are going to come to that. If you're going to launch a campaign on social media, it's time to start planning out that content. And so we have resources for students ranging from kind of, like Jessica mentioned, those sort of lower input, high impact projects, all the way through really in-depth things where students might organize a day-long fair about mental health issues, for example. And then lastly, in debrief, when we want students to really be thinking about their impact and what that is, we provided several resources for students to think about how they can solicit feedback from others, how they can solicit feedback on their own, maybe do a post-test analysis similar to what they did in Assess, as well as celebrate their accomplishments and celebrate what they've been able to do, and get ready to do it all over again and think about what's next for their school. Under resources, you're going to see that we invite you to register your team. Everything that we offer through inspirED is free of charge to schools, thanks to the generous funding of our funders and Facebook for Education. But we want schools to register because that's how you can stay in touch with us. That's how you receive our newsletter. You receive coaching sessions from one of our staff at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, all of our updates. And then, of course, if we are coming to your area to do an event, we want to make sure that we know about you. There's some resources here to recruit your team. Sometimes inspirED gets plugged into an existing group that already exists within the school. Sometimes it is a new group that's forming. So recruiting is right here. And then our main resource that we offer as sort of our full set is called the Innovator's Guide. And I have that pulled up here. And the Innovator's Guide is, like I said, the full set of resources that we want to put directly into the hands of students. And you'll see that it's broken down for sort of like a menu of options of different resources they might want to use at each of those 4 steps: assess, brainstorm, commit, and debrief. Next, I'm going to take you over to our project database. In working with students, we found that some schools are really excited to get started and to do the work, but maybe coming up with what to do is a little bit of a challenge, or they want to know what's been done at schools that are similar to them or are facing something similar at their school. So we built this database of projects, and it's searchable by a couple of different things. So the first thing that you can search by is, what type of project is it? Is it more of an ongoing campaign? Is it a community engagement where you're going to look to bring in others from the community and partner with them? Is it a policy proposal where students are actually suggesting to change or rewrite the rules? Is it more of an ongoing tradition? As well as the areas of school climate. And there are 9 dimensions of school climate that are represented here that span relationships, safety, and school quality. And you can actually filter by what you're hoping to see. So if I choose initiative and I choose psychological safety, you'll see all the projects that match that as well. And then if you choose one, I will choose the 9th grade welcome lunch to help 9th graders acclimate into that first week of school. And you'll see that there's actually the project resource here to help you to learn how to do that project. It's also sortable by how long it takes to pull this project off. So is this like a quicker and easy project, maybe a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, or is it a much longer project that's going to take you months down the road? We have the same thing in our activities area, which is another database. These are, rather than projects that students can launch, these are activities that teachers can lead in their classrooms, or students can lead or explore for themselves or for their peers. And we have filtered these by a couple of different areas as well. You'll see that these are filtered by the 5 CASEL domains of the competencies of social and emotional learning. So relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness, as well as those emotions from the emotion revolution data that students told us they wanted to feel. So they organized by pairs of emotions. So if I were to choose looking for projects to do with social awareness, maybe that's something that I wanted my students to work on and have the opportunity to practice. And I also wanted to foster a classroom environment where my students could feel connected and supported. I would see all the projects that have to do with that. And one of them, for example, is Anonymous Accomplishment Board, where students are invited to keep an ongoing board in the classroom where they can kind of give each other kudos and shout outs and complement each other on the wonderful things that they're doing and how they're supporting each other. Finally, we have our blog where we like to share stories and inspiration from schools that have inspirED teams that are running and what is new with them. So you'll see schools here that have been doing inspirED projects, and they'll share kind of their whole story from when they began to what they decided they wanted to work on, all the way through what their results and their impact were. So I'm going to take us back to our main presentation here and let you know sort of where we are today as far as we've come. So this is, as Mark mentioned, about 5 years down the line. And so as of today, we have almost 500 registered schools across the nation, representing 44 states and the District of Columbia, as well as several international schools that have chosen to bring inspirED to their environment. And we've hosted training events for students, actually day-long events where we train students in how to bring this process to their schools. And everybody leaves with a concrete project that they're going to bring back to their school. And we've held events, those day-long events in Atlanta, Augusta, Maine, in Cleveland, Chicago, in El Cajon, California, as well as Honolulu, Menlo Park, New York, San Antonio, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. And in total, those events have represented about 240 teams, or about 1,800 students that are out there on the ground kind of doing this every day. So we're so thrilled to bring you two of our schools that have been longtime users of inspirED. And so we're going to start with the High School of Fashion Industries in New York. And I'm going to actually invite the principal of that school, Mr. Daryl Blank, to introduce himself and the HSFI school.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Julie. So my name is Daryl Blank. I'm the principal at the High School of Fashion Industries. We're a 9 through 12 school in Manhattan on West 24th Street between 7th and 8th. If you're ever around and want to say hi, hopefully we'll get back into our building soon. And so we've really gone through the emotion revolution at the High School of Fashion Industries. We've been on a 4-year journey from visiting Yale and visiting Julie and Jessica and Mark and Dr. Brackett at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and we've incorporated, if you're familiar with, a lot of the parts of Ruler, creating a social emotional learning charter for our students, for our staff, and our community, using the mood meter, and we took that piece from Ruler. And we sort of needed sort of that ABCD to sort of think through what we're doing in terms of executing a systems in the school. We've got 1,600 students. We've got a lot of moving parts. And so creating the systems to sort of assess everything, brainstorm, committing, debriefing has been a big process at the school in terms of reflecting every year and then moving forward with different projects. So inspirED has given us the tools and the activities and the resources to really execute that emotion revolution. And one of the things that we've done in our systems is that one of our wonderful teachers is our social emotional learning coordinator. And I'm going to turn it over to her, Miss Kelly Malloy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Daryl. I'm Kelly Malloy. As Mr. Blank said, I am a science teacher at the High School of Fashion Industries, as well as one of our social emotional learning coordinators. I will mention, as Mr. Blank said, that inspirED really provided a great complement to the existing work we were already doing with Ruler at our school, and really gave a way for the students to kind of take all of the social emotional resources that we were providing and sort of taking it on their own and sort of creating their own projects with that. And so we have a short video to show you that kind of describes some of the projects. We didn't get to include all of them because there have been quite a few since we have a lot of motivated students. So if you do have any questions afterwards, we will be happy to answer those in the Q&A session, or as Mr. Blank said, if you're ever in Manhattan, to stop by and see us. Hi, my name is Kelly Malloy, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Social Emotional Learning Program at the High School of Fashion Industries, which has been extremely successful thanks to the inspirED resources. We began our inspirED journey with a climate survey to reflect the students, staff, and family member voices in our community. We found that student respect and safety were already things that we were doing very well, and what we needed to work on was improving our students' social emotional security. And so we created both a student SEL committee and a staff SEL committee to sort of oversee changes that we wanted to make in our school community. Our principal, Mr. Blank, created these town halls where students and staff could come and share their thoughts. And it really was a way that we were able to brainstorm ideas and sort of create the things that we needed to move forward. And so we really sort of put the ownership on our student SEL committee to lead discussions, to create some focus groups, to sort of monitor their peers through social media, and kind of see what sort of projects they wanted to have done at our school. The student committee members really have the final decision on project implementation and overseeing that project themselves. And so one of our most successful projects was our Valentine's Day event called Heart to Heart. And so one of the things that our SEL committee noticed was that Valentine's was a very sensitive day for a lot of students, where they didn't necessarily feel loved or they felt alone. And so in order to combat that, they decided to create over 1,500 handmade Valentines and put them on all the students' lockers. We faced a number of challenges with this, where we created we had limited resources, limited amount of time, and so students really worked around the clock and were creative to try to come up with ways that we can make all of us students feel loved and have this project be successful. So every year this has grown more and more, and this year a group of over 60 students stayed after school the day before Valentine's to hang all of these students on their lockers. That's 8 floors of lockers. So really a very large commitment to improving our school community. After these events, we always debrief and say what worked, what didn't work, and what we want to do better. And so we monitor our social media for students' reactions. This event in particular, our Valentine's Day event, was very successful. And so it is now in its 3rd year. Every year we have more students volunteering, and it really just sort of has such a great impact on our school community. We always recruit new ideas for the following year, and each year gets better and better. I would now like to turn it over to inspirED, our head of our SEL student committee, to share her thoughts on the Valentine's Day event, as well as some of the stuff we've been doing during virtual learning to support our students.
Hi, I'm inspirED, president of the Emotions Matter Club at the High School of Fashion Industries. During my time with the club, I have organized a Valentine's Day event, which is a tradition of creating handmade Valentines for every student's locker that we stick up the day before, so students come in the morning feeling acknowledged and appreciated. It has become very popular, and this year we had almost 60 people volunteer to help put up the Valentines, as it takes a lot of hard work and people to get 8 floors of lockers covered in our school. We even stuck them on teachers' doors to show them that we love them and appreciate them. And I have seen that students have started to really look forward to Valentine's Day because they're curious to see what cheesy card they're going to get. And the next project we worked on was creating a pen pal system. I created a system during the quarantine to give the students a sense of community while everyone's stuck at home. It is very easy to feel alone and isolated during the pandemic, so it was important to connect people somehow. We paired students with students and teachers with teachers, and then I created a doc of conversation starters and prompts for people if they needed to get started or they needed some guidance, and we posted them periodically on the pen pal Google Classroom, so everything was in one place and everyone had access to it. Students got to choose which platform they preferred to meet on, and initially we just gave them their partner's emails so they could get started somehow. And so our final project this year was a senior memories video as a send-off gift, where we asked students to submit whatever memories they had, and we just compiled them into a video. And so my part of this project was to create posts for our schools' Instagram using Canva to get more participation, since students tend to be more active on social media than on their emails. And so all in all, I felt that this program and this club and all of these projects were very rewarding, because it was so nice to see how they impact students and how they were very skeptical at first about the SEL programs, but slowly they warmed up to it, and I think they really enjoy the positive energy that they get from this club and these projects now. So it's been a great experience.
Thank you so much, inspirED, for sharing your thoughts with us. As inspirED mentioned, during quarantine, we've been trying to create some creative ways to reach our students and still provide SEL supports. And so one of the things Akriti mentioned was the Pen Pal initiative, which you can see was really driven by our students. They were matched and given prompts to discuss, and felt that that was a way that students were not so alone during this shutdown. We also did a number of other things, such as creating a quarantine cookbook, creating an activity book that was entirely put together by our Emotions Matter student group, which is our SEL committee. And you can hear that there's a number of other things that students were involved with as well, right? And sort of this overall changes that we've seen to our school community are huge. We cannot underscore the improvements and the overall impact we see to the students. Sometimes in the mornings, we'll do sort of check-in tables to greet students and make sort of a positive reflection space. We've also done a number of other things as well by revising the logistics of our buddy program to make it more beneficial and successful based on student feedback. And so all of these things combined have really had a gigantic, immeasurable impact on HSFI. And we really can't thank the inspirED community and their resources enough for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, HSFI team. We so appreciate you sharing that and letting us have the opportunity to hear from Akriti as well. So again, I encourage everyone, if you have questions for the HSFI team, if there's something that you wanted to hear more about, or you have questions about one of their projects, please go ahead and put those into the Q&A feature, and we will compile them for the end of this webinar. And next, I want to introduce our students from Grossmont High School, Kimmy, Kennedy, and Deja, who are going to tell you a little bit about what inspirED looks like on the West Coast in the San Diego area.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name is Kennedy Durkis. I'm class of 2019 at Grossmont High School. I'm currently a sophomore at Occidental College, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how we got started with inspirED and Ruler. We are both an inspirED and a Ruler school, and then I'm going to kick it over to Kimmy and Deja, and they're going to talk about where our school is headed. Student, his name was Ryan Wilcox, and Ryan was diagnosed with cancer, and he had the biggest heart. He always wanted to come to school every day. He wanted to be a part of Grossmont's culture, and he really felt like he was a part of a family on Grossmont's campus. And when Ryan passed, we wanted to really continue his legacy and, create this family atmosphere at Grossmont where everyone felt like they mattered and they had a voice. And so we got together with inspirED and we started a couple projects. The first project we have right here is the poster project. And the goal of this project was common language. We wanted to create this sense of unity through language on our campus. And so there's a few posters on there. It's great to be young and a foothiller, be a foothiller, be bold. And it was really cool to see this change as we were walking on campus. It was no longer like, hey, you should really do that. Hey, whatever. It was, be bold, just go do it, be bold. And it started to become this common language on campus, and it started unifying our campus across all aspects, all groups, all different types of students. And then Julie, if you could go to the next slide. So now we've unified the campus. And so we said, okay, how can we make everyone feel like they matter on campus? How can we make everyone feel like what they're doing has an impact, no matter how small or how big? And so we started this project called the DOT Project. And so on this very kindergarten, elementary school-esque poster, we tracked every single group or community on campus. So you've got athletics, you've got teachers, staff, performance groups, and we set this goal to recognize every single group on campus, and we would track it through dots. So if one sport had more dots, we said, okay, hey, we need to recognize another group, and it was different compared to each group. So for sports teams, we did good luck notes, and we made sure that every note had the student's name on it, because when you get something and it has your name on it and it's meant specifically for you, that means a lot. And then for like performance groups, we would get together with the step team and we'd say, hey, we want you to perform at our assembly coming up on Friday. And so we really worked hard to try to recognize everyone in a unique way that benefited them. You can go to the next slide, Julie. So now we've recognized everyone. So now everyone feels like they're part of a family. They feel included on campus. They want to come to school every day, and these all come together and they all support this idea of your voice matters and you are a student on campus who can contribute to this culture. And so now that we've created this atmosphere, we really are working toward using it to make change on our campus. And so I'm going to kick it over to Kimmy and Deja, and they're going to talk about where we're going from here.
Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly Bond and I'm going to be a senior this year and I'm an executive in our ASB class. And just going off of what Kennedy said, we have to continue creating new ways to involve students, give them a voice, and especially during these changing times when there are fewer opportunities, we must make them feel as valued as possible even if they're at home. So what are some of the things that we've done during quarantine and the COVID-19 crisis to just feel like give our students a voice at home? And so you can go to the next slide. One of the many things we've done is we've really utilized our social media, and we've done this thing called senior sports recognition because a lot of our seniors in our sports.
I'm just going to ask if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind jumping in, because I think we're having some issues with Kimmy's Wi-Fi.
Okay, so hi, I'm Deja. I am the ASB president at Grossmont, and I will also be a senior at Grossmont next year. To finish off what Kimmy was saying, we recognized each senior because we knew they weren't going to be able to have their senior night. So to make them still feel special, we recognized each senior by creating individual art pieces with their names and what sport or activity they are involved with, and we posted all of these art pieces onto our social media page, and they really enjoyed that. If we go to the next slide, we also have done Fridays in quarantine. At Grossmont, we wanted our staff and students to feel connected in this time of isolation. So in response, we dedicated each Friday to posting an entertaining video on our social media page. Our students shared what they do during quarantine, and our staff actually got together and created this whole video of them singing along to our school song, which is Sweet Caroline. And the students and staff actually had a really fun time with it. We had so much commentary. It was really entertaining. So yeah, that was a really nice time. But if we go to the next slide, we knew that the class that got hit and impacted the most with quarantine was going to be our seniors. They were going to miss out on so many opportunities and activities at the end of the school year. So to make sure that they still felt recognized and appreciated, we decked out our whole lower parking lot in blue and gold, which is our school colors. And we played music, and our staff was out there to greet them as they drove through the parking lot. And we presented them with their awards, and they thoroughly enjoyed that time of appreciation. So it was really nice. If we go to our next slide, what we are planning for the upcoming year, we have so many new ideas and activities that we are going to present in the upcoming year. Hi Deja, sorry guys, I'm back. My computer totally crashed. But so one of the main things that we're going to focus on this following year is mental health. And the big question is, do students have the resources they need to get help? And for the most part, one of the biggest answers. And so we're going to be focusing on that. So if you go to the next slide. So we just want to create more opportunities for students to reach out so that they feel more comfortable getting the help that they need. And a few of the ways we want to do this is through Google Forms and surveys, and this can direct them to access to peer listeners. It's kind of the student counselors on our campus, as well as the adult teacher counselors. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see one of the ways that we're working on this right now. And we're developing a new Google form, and it's a mood meter survey. And it just helps teachers gauge how students are feeling on an everyday basis. And so it'll create an easier opportunities for students to reach out, even if they don't want to go directly to a teacher. So we will come up with words and emotions that match the numbers on the mood meter. And the numbers will give the staff an idea of how blue, red, green, or yellow, all the colors that represents the emotions a student is on that certain day, so that they can better adapt their teaching to them.
As well as this, we can run overall reports and get data on students who have entered blue or red for a number of days in a row so that we can direct them and recommend them to a counselor or a peer listener on our campus. And then I'm going to hand it over to Deja for our next topic.
Our social justice committee is a new project that we are working on. We want our students to feel safe and heard every time they walk onto campus. So in order to accomplish that, we have inherited this idea at our school, and we're going to create, can we move to the next slide? To project these, we're going to create support groups and have information on different injustices that are happening inside of our world. We want to create a better place, not only on our campus, but in our community as well. We have formed union with other clubs who share the same morals as us and want to help make a change everywhere. And it's a project that is undergo, and we're still working on it today, but we are really excited to participate in it. We want to thank you for letting us have this opportunity, and we really appreciate it. And thank you, Grossmont team, and for jumping in and supporting each other. Deja and Kimmy, thank you for being flexible and making that work. So I'm going to pass it back to Jessica, who's going to talk to us a little bit about our next steps and where we're going from here.
All right, thank you, Julie. So we've got a lot planned coming up in this next year and into the future. The biggest announcement from us and our newest partnership is with Susan Crown Exchange through their Tech and Society Youth Voice Challenge. So inspirED and the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, along with a cohort of 7 other amazing organizations, have been selected to be part of this Youth Voice initiative. And what we'll be doing over the next 2 years is working with about 80 inspirED teams across 4 cities in the United States and asking them to work on projects specific to healthy social media habits and technology use among themselves and their peers. So this ties back to school climate because social media and technology actually feed into all the areas of climate. Obviously, we know how it feeds into relationships and social structure, but also emotional and psychological safety, as well as teaching practices when we begin to think about whether schools are preparing students for 21st century jobs and whether they're teaching enough about digital literacy and privacy and safety. So the students will still get to pick the thing that they want to work on, and they will still be the ones brainstorming, committing to, and completing inspirED projects. As long as it has a social media habit and healthy technology use bent to it, it will count. And we are really looking forward to sharing out through our school stories on the blog and in the projects page, all of those projects as they unfold so that anyone else across the country who would like to replicate them will be able to do so. We'll be working with the International Bullying Prevention Association, who's a great partner of ours in selecting these states and recruiting these schools. But I do want to mention that if you are a registered team, then we know where you are, then we can reach out to you if we're coming to your city sometime soon. And if you're not registered yet, we recommend that you do so that we can let you know if we're coming your way. In addition, we're going to continue to work with our friends at Facebook for Education on youth activation and ways to use social media for good. And we are also thinking about all the different ways that we can get our resources into the hands of as many students as possible. And so we've started to work with other organizations who will share our resources out to the world, including Panorama's Playbook, and we're also on High Resolve's Composer, and continuing to look for other ways that we can expand our reach. So that is what we've been up to and where we're headed. And so I will now, if you haven't already, ask you to join the Emotion Revolution. You can email us if you have questions at inspirED@yale.edu. And of course, you can visit the site that Julie showed us or go to the Center for Emotional Intelligence's main site, which is yci.org. Follow us on social media so that we can follow you back and hear about all the amazing things that you're doing. And with that, we did have one question already in the Q&A. So the question that I saw come through was whether that Google survey version of the mood meter might be possible to share. And I see that Jeremy, you've already answered that in the Q&A, that you are working on it and finding a way to make that happen. So you let us know when you're ready to share out with the world, and then we will make sure to make that available. And we can, if you'd like, if anyone else has questions that you'd like to type into the chat for the Q&A, we'll save some time for that now. We have one question about implementing inspirED in college. And I know that we had questions earlier about elementary school as well. We are all for anyone who would like to take an initiative that they think needs solving and support them in doing so. The reason really that we say that we're middle and high school is because that is where the research that inspirED is based on has come from in the past. And so we don't want to overextend our promises beyond kind of what we have researched to date. But we definitely have witnessed and are all for elementary school students doing this work, obviously with additional scaffolding, right? In terms of how much autonomy they might have over a project or how much help they might need, depending on what they choose. And the same goes for college. We are all for that. And if we can help you, we're happy to do so. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So I think that we are just about at time. I want to say a big thank you to Mark and to Julie and to Jamie and everyone from the Grossmont High School and High School of Fashion Industries. We are so excited for this relaunch event and to stay in touch with everybody. I want to remind you that we are going to send out this recording, so you will have that. And please reach out to us if any additional questions occur to you. We are happy to answer those or forward them on to the panelists if it's a question specific to someone. So we look forward to continuing on this emotion revolution journey with everyone. And thank you for taking the time today.